The stars were calm, endless, and cold. A vast alien fleet moved through the darkness, thousands of ships glinting like shards of metal in space. Their engines hummed with power, their weapons were deadly, and every commander aboard believed themselves unbeatable. They called themselves the Draxonians, rulers of warfare, conquerors of planets. No human, no alien, could ever match their skill. On the bridge of the largest Draxonian ship, Commander Zorath watched the radar screens. His many eyes flicked from one sensor to another. "All systems ready," he said. "The galaxy will kneel before us. No one can stop the Draxonians." His voice was full of pride, and around him, the officers nodded in agreement. They believed victory was certain. Then the alarms rang. A small, faint blip appeared on the sensors. It was tiny, insignificant, a single human battleship. One ship against thousands. The aliens laughed. A human? Alone? Zoratha's voice dripped with contempt. "Send a warning. Make them surrender." On the human ship, the crew moved calmly. Their captain, Lieutenant Mara, stood at the command panel, eyes focused. The ship was small, not nearly as powerful as the alien fleet, but it was fast, clever, and armed with weapons no one had ever seen. The humans were not afraid. They never were. The alien ships approached, massive and threatening. Their weapons glowed, ready to fire. The Draxonians were confident. They had crushed entire civilizations before. But they had never faced humans like these. Mara's voice was steady over the comms. "We do not wish to fight, but we will if we must." The aliens ignored the message and activated their attack formations. Millions of lasers and missiles prepared to burn the human ship to nothing. But the human battleship vanished from sensors. The aliens froze. "Impossible!" one officer shouted. "Where did they go?" Mara smiled quietly. The humans had learned to use the shadows of space. They moved in ways the aliens could not predict. The ship twisted, turned, and appeared where no one expected. From that position, they could strike at the alien fleet's weak points. A small Draxonian patrol ship drifted too close, curious. It did not notice the human ship until it was too late. A flash of light, a sudden explosion, and the patrol ship was gone. Alarmed, the Draxonians tried to organize, but the humans had already created confusion. Back on the human ship, Mara studied the alien fleet. She knew they were outnumbered. Thousands of enemy ships, armed to the teeth, were ready to destroy her tiny vessel. Yet she was calm. Humans survived by thinking differently, by finding solutions where others saw only doom. The alien commander's anger grew. "This is absurd. One human ship cannot do this," he roared. But the humans were not attacking wildly. Every movement was careful, precise. Every maneuver was meant to confuse, to mislead, to survive. The alien fleet had power, but humans had creativity and courage. The tension in space was unbearable. The stars seemed to hold their breath as two very different kinds of intelligence faced each other. The Draxonians relied on sheer strength. The humans relied on cunning. It was a dangerous game, and one wrong move could end the humans instantly. Then, without warning, a human ship appeared behind the Draxonian flagship. Its weapons glowed, but it did not fire yet. The aliens could only watch, paralyzed with disbelief. "How did they get there?" Zorath whispered, his pride shaken. "No human can move like this." Mara's ship remained silent. She did not need to speak. The presence alone was enough to send a message. Humans were unpredictable. Humans were clever. And humans were not afraid to face impossible odds. Suddenly, a massive alien cruiser charged toward the human ship. It was fast, stronger, and armed with weapons designed to obliterate anything in seconds. But the human ship slipped past it, disappearing like a shadow. The cruiser fired blindly, its attacks missing every time. Frustration and fear spread among the Draxonians. Mara knew this was just the beginning. She had no illusions about the danger ahead. Thousands of enemy ships awaited. Every one of them could destroy her ship in an instant. But humans had a way of turning weakness into strength. They could survive when all hope seemed lost. The alien fleet now understood something crucial. These humans were not like other species. They did not fight like anyone else. They were clever, daring, and relentless. And if the humans had only one ship now, who knew what they could do with more? The human battleship signaled to an unseen ally, then vanished again from all sensors. The Draxonians were left confused, angry, and afraid. Their arrogance was shaken. The galaxy had long whispered tales of human resilience, but none had seen it firsthand, until now. Commander Zorath gritted his teeth. "Find them," he shouted. "Destroy that human ship before it destroys everything we have built." But he knew, deep down, that this would not be easy. Humans were dangerous. Humans were unpredictable. And now, humans had arrived in a way the Draxonians had never imagined. The stars were silent once more, but the tension remained. Somewhere in the darkness, the human battleship waited, ready for the next move. The game of survival had begun, and for the first time, the mighty Draxonians felt fear. The galaxy seemed calm, but the human battleship was far from safe. Lieutenant Mara and her crew moved quietly, checking every system, every sensor. The Draxonians were massive, powerful, and furious. They had lost one patrol ship already, and now their curiosity had turned into rage. Mara knew the next few hours could decide life or death. The human ship glided through empty space, small and fast. It used shadows and hidden routes, slipping past alien scanners. Mara's hands moved over the controls with calm precision. Her crew followed every command, ready for anything. Humans were not the strongest in numbers, but they were clever. They could survive situations that would destroy any other species. On the bridge of the Draxonian flagship, Commander Zorath pounded his clawed hands on the console. His anger was deep, but fear was growing too. "They cannot be stopped," he said, voice low. "How can one human ship move like that?" His officers were confused. They had never seen a species that could outsmart them so easily. Meanwhile, the human battleship approached the edge of an asteroid field. Mara used it as cover, hiding the ship from the alien fleet. The Draxonians scanned the area, but their sensors were confused. Humans thought differently. They used tricks and misdirection, something the aliens did not understand. Suddenly, a small alien drone appeared, scanning the asteroid field. Mara's crew tensed. The drone could report their position in seconds. But Mara smiled. The humans had prepared for this. With a few quick maneuvers, the drone was trapped, then destroyed in a tiny flash. The aliens had not expected that. Back on the Draxonian flagship, alarms screamed. Zorath roared, "No human should be able to do this. Deploy the reinforcements. Find them now." Hundreds of alien ships swerved through space, trying to track the small human vessel. But the humans had vanished again, leaving only confusion and a trail of destroyed drones. Mara studied the fleet. Thousands of ships, hundreds of weapons, and still, they could not locate her ship. She knew she had to be careful. One mistake, one miscalculation, and the human crew would be destroyed. But humans thrived under pressure. Their strength was not in sheer force. It was in thinking, planning, and courage. Suddenly, the human ship fired a single pulse toward a distant alien vessel. It was not a direct attack but a signal. Mara had a plan, but it was risky. The aliens noticed and moved aggressively. One massive cruiser accelerated toward the human ship. Its weapons glowed bright, ready to annihilate anything in its path. The humans disappeared again, slipping behind the cruiser, out of sight. The alien ship fired blindly, missing every time. Panic spread across the alien fleet. "Impossible!" one officer screamed. "They are everywhere. How can one human do this?" The human crew stayed calm. Mara's voice over the comms was steady. "We are not here to destroy you, but we will defend ourselves if needed. Your arrogance will be your weakness." The aliens did not understand humans. They relied on fear, on numbers, on power. Humans relied on intelligence, courage, and unpredictability. As the alien fleet regrouped, Mara activated another device on the ship. It sent signals that disrupted alien communications. Confusion spread through the Draxonian fleet. Ships collided, weapons misfired, and coordination fell apart. The humans were small, but their tactics were deadly. Zorath's face was dark with rage. "This is unacceptable. Find them." But even he realized that the humans were not fighting like any other species he had conquered. They were clever, daring, and relentless. And that was more dangerous than any weapon the aliens possessed. The human ship slipped into the shadows again, using every trick possible. The crew held their breath, waiting for the next attack. Every second counted. One wrong move, and the humans would be gone forever. But they were prepared. Humans survived because they adapted. They survived because they never gave up. The stars were silent once more, but the tension was unbearable. The alien fleet could feel it too. Humans had arrived, not as victims, but as opponents they could not predict. Mara's ship sent another pulse across the void, a warning and a promise. Humans would fight, and they would not be defeated easily. And in that darkness, a single thought ran through the minds of the Draxonians. They had underestimated humans. They had thought one ship would be nothing. But humans were more than machines, more than weapons. Humans were cunning, brave, and unstoppable in ways no alien could understand. The game had changed. The humans were no longer just hiding. They were planning their next move, ready to turn the odds in their favor. And somewhere deep in the Draxonian fleet, Commander Zorath realized a terrifying truth. The humans had already won the first battle, not by power, but by courage and intelligence. The galaxy held its breath. The human battleship was small, but its shadow loomed large over the proud Draxonians. And Lieutenant Mara knew this was only the beginning. The human ship moved silently through the empty stars. Lieutenant Mara and her crew were calm, their eyes scanning every corner of space. The Draxonian fleet was huge, more than anyone could imagine. Thousands of ships, all armed to destroy, all ready to crush the small human vessel. Yet, Mara was not afraid. Humans had always survived against impossible odds. Ahead, a small group of Draxonian patrol ships moved carelessly, unaware of the humans nearby. Mara's lips curved into a quiet smile. "This is our chance," she said. The crew nodded, their fingers ready on the controls. Humans never rushed blindly. Every move was precise, every decision calculated. With a sudden flash, the human ship struck. Energy beams shot out, hitting one patrol ship after another. Explosions lit up space like stars falling. The aliens had not expected such sudden attack. Confusion spread through the patrol fleet. "What is happening?" one officer shouted. "How can one human ship do this?" Mara's ship moved like a shadow, disappearing, then reappearing behind enemy lines. Each strike was measured, targeting weak points in alien ships. The humans did not aimlessly destroy. They disabled, confused, and outsmarted. In moments, several patrol ships were destroyed, and the rest fled in panic. The Draxonian commanders were shocked. They had never seen a species fight like this. They relied on strength and numbers, but the humans relied on strategy and cleverness. "Impossible!" Commander Zorath yelled. "This cannot be. One ship cannot destroy so many." The human crew remained calm. Mara looked at her sensors and spoke quietly. "They think they are in control. Let them feel how wrong they are." She pressed a few buttons, activating the ship's stealth systems. The humans became invisible to alien scanners, moving silently among the chaos they had created. The alien fleet tried to regroup, but every attempt failed. The humans were unpredictable. Ships vanished, then struck again. Aliens collided, fired at empty space, and scrambled in confusion. Mara and her crew moved with precision, striking where the enemy least expected. Every human action was clever, every move calculated. On one alien cruiser, panic spread. The crew could not understand what was happening. They had trained for war, for battles, for strategy. But humans did not fight like any other species. The aliens realized their weapons were ineffective against something they could not predict. Fear spread, and with it, mistakes. Mara's ship slipped past a massive Draxonian destroyer. She watched as it fired blindly, missing by miles. Humans had no illusions about the danger. They knew one mistake could mean death. But that did not stop them. Humans survived because they adapted. Humans survived because they never gave up, no matter how impossible the odds. Suddenly, the human ship fired a precise blast at the alien cruiser's engines. It exploded in a silent flash, sending debris floating into the void. The remaining alien ship slowed, unsure what to do next. Mara knew the humans had made their point. They were small, but their intelligence and bravery made them dangerous beyond measure. Zoratha's face darkened with rage. "Stop them!" he screamed. "Do not let them continue. They are humans. They cannot be defeated like this." But deep inside, he knew the truth. The humans were clever. They were daring. And for the first time he felt fear. The human ship moved again, silently, quickly, disappearing into the darkness. The patrol ships that survived scattered, no longer in formation. The Draxonians had never felt helpless before, and now, one small human vessel had created chaos in their ranks. Mara's voice over the comms was calm, almost gentle. "We do not wish to fight for destruction. We wish to survive. But we will defend ourselves if necessary." Her words carried a quiet power, one that shook the pride of the mighty aliens. The galaxy seemed to hold its breath. The human battleship was small, yet its shadow loomed large over the alien fleet. One ship had done what thousands of alien vessels could not anticipate. It had shown that intelligence, courage, and strategy could outweigh sheer numbers. And somewhere deep in the Draxonian fleet, Commander Zorath realized a terrifying truth. Humans were not like any other species he had conquered. They did not follow rules. They did not fight predictably. They were cunning, brave, and unstoppable in ways he had never imagined. The human crew prepared for the next strike, their eyes calm but alert. The first battle was over, but the war had just begun. The humans had made their mark, and the Draxonians would never forget it. The human battleship drifted through space, calm but aware of the danger surrounding it. Thousands of Draxonian ships had now gathered, forming a deadly net of firepower. The humans were alone, small, and outnumbered beyond imagination. Every crew member knew the odds were against them. Yet fear did not touch them. Humans thrived where others would surrender. Lieutenant Mara stood on the bridge, eyes scanning every sensor. "They are surrounding us," she said softly. Her crew moved with quiet precision, checking shields, weapons, and engines. The humans had no illusions. One wrong move could mean death. But they were clever, and cleverness was their weapon. The Draxonians advanced. Massive cruisers fired beams of energy, and missiles streaked toward the human ship. Space lit up with explosions as alien fire missed narrowly. Mara's crew ducked slightly with each tremor, adjusting the ship's movements. The humans were fast, agile, unpredictable. Where the aliens used strength, the humans used intelligence. A massive Draxonian destroyer charged straight at them, its weapons glowing with deadly energy. The crew tensed, ready for the impact. Mara pressed a series of buttons, activating a decoy system. The destroyer fired, hitting what it thought was the human ship, but it was only a holographic image. Mara's ship twisted and vanished into the shadows. The alien fleet's confusion grew. Their communications failed, orders overlapped, and panic began to spread. "What are they doing?" one officer shouted. "They are everywhere and nowhere." The Draxonians had never encountered such tactics. They relied on power and formation, but the humans broke every rule. Mara smiled quietly. The humans were not attacking blindly. Every movement was careful, every strategy planned. They targeted weak points, avoided traps, and used the enemy's size against them. One by one, small alien ships collided or misfired, leaving the larger vessels exposed. A sudden flash lit the darkness. A human pulse hit a nearby cruiser, disabling its engines. It drifted, helpless, as smaller ships struggled to protect it. Mara's ship slipped past, invisible and silent, as the Draxonians scrambled. Humans were a ghost in space, untouchable not because of armor or firepower, but because of skill and courage. Zoratha's voice roared through the bridge, shaking metal and screens. "Stop them! They cannot escape! They are humans. One ship cannot do this to us." But the humans were not fighting like others. They were clever, daring, and relentless. That was their strength. That was their danger. The human battleship fired another pulse, this time at an alien weapons array, causing it to overload and explode. The shockwave rippled through nearby ships, damaging engines and systems. The Draxonians tried to regroup, but confusion reigned. They were outnumbered in presence, yet outmaneuvered by one small human ship. Mara's crew moved with calm precision, adjusting shields, repairing minor damages, and preparing the next strike. They had no time for fear. Humans survived because they adapted, survived because they thought differently, survived because they never gave up. From space it looked impossible. One small ship, moving between thousands, striking, vanishing, then striking again. And yet, the humans were alive, victorious in small ways, proving that courage and intelligence could overcome sheer power. The Draxonians began to hesitate. Commander Zorath realized that brute force alone would not defeat these humans. They had underestimated their ingenuity, their bravery, and their determination. A new fear crept into his mind. The humans were unpredictable, unstoppable, and nothing like the species he had conquered before. Mara's voice over the comms was calm. "You may have numbers, but we have the mind and courage to survive. This is only the beginning." The words echoed through space, carrying a quiet power that shook even the proud Draxonians. As the human ship slipped into the shadows again, preparing for the next move, one truth became clear. Humans were not just surviving. They were teaching a lesson. That lesson was simple but terrifying. Brains, courage, and willpower could defeat even the mightiest fleet. And in the darkness, the human battleship waited, ready. Thousands of enemy ships surrounded it, yet none could predict its next move. The humans were outnumbered, yes, but never outmatched. The stars held their breath. The humans had faced the impossible and lived. The Draxonians, for the first time, felt fear. And that fear would grow. The human ship floated silently through space, small but dangerous. Lieutenant Mara watched the Draxonian fleet through her sensors. Thousands of ships surrounded them, ready to strike, yet confusion reigned. Humans had survived impossible odds before, but now the challenge was greater than ever. Every crew member knew they had to act carefully, yet boldly. Mara pressed a few buttons on the console. "Activate the energy cannon," she said calmly. Her crew followed quickly. This was no ordinary weapon. It was a human invention, designed to disrupt technology in ways the aliens could not imagine. The Draxonians had never faced anything like it. Back on the Draxonian flagship, alarms screamed. Commander Zoratha's eyes widened in disbelief. "Impossible," he shouted. One ship, one human ship, could not possibly hold such power. But the humans were clever. They had learned, adapted, and now they were ready to show their ultimate strength. The human ship fired. A pulse of blue energy spread through the alien fleet, hitting ships directly. Systems overloaded, weapons misfired, engines stalled. The Draxonians scrambled, unable to coordinate their forces. Panic spread quickly. Ships collided in space, lasers hit empty space, and confusion became chaos. Mara's voice remained calm over the comms. "We do not wish to destroy you, but we will defend ourselves. Any attack against us will be met with clever resistance." The words were simple, yet they carried power. The Draxonians had relied on fear before, but humans did not respond to fear. They responded with action, intelligence, and courage. The human battleship moved among the stunned alien ships. Every strike was precise, targeting weapons, engines, and communication systems. The humans were not reckless. They aimed to disable, not destroy everything. Their tactics were unlike anything the Draxonians had ever faced. Zoratha's fury grew. He barked orders, but they were useless. The humans had disrupted their fleet systems. Their strength, their numbers, their firepower, all were useless against the cunning of one small ship. One human, he realized, could change the tide of war simply with intelligence and bravery. A cruiser tried to attack, but it malfunctioned, spinning helplessly in space. Another fired blindly and collided with a smaller ship. Mara watched each move calmly. The humans had taught themselves to survive against impossible odds, and now they were turning survival into victory. The Draxonians began retreating. Their commanders shouted, confused and angry. Ships that had once seemed unstoppable now drifted in chaos. Humans, tiny in size but immense in cleverness, had broken the fleet's coordination. The mighty Draxonians could not believe it. They had been humbled by a single human vessel. Mara looked at her crew and nodded. "We've shown them what humans can do," she said. Yet, she knew the fight was not over. The galaxy was vast, and the Draxonians would return. But humans had a secret weapon: brains, courage, and the will to survive. and those were powers no alien could match. The human ship fired another pulse, this time at a Draxonian flagship. It rocked violently, forcing the crew to scramble. Panic spread quickly. The humans were teaching a lesson. Even the mighty could fall when intelligence and bravery were used wisely. Zorath retreated with what remained of his fleet. He had underestimated the humans, and the price was clear. His arrogance had been shattered, replaced with fear and respect. One human ship had changed the battlefield entirely. Mara's crew remained calm, vigilant, and ready. They had survived, and now they had proven that humans could overcome even the greatest odds. The turning point had come. One small ship, full of humans, had reminded the galaxy of a simple truth. Brains and courage could defeat sheer power. The stars were silent, holding the tension of what had just happened. The Draxonians had fled, but they would return. Humans were ready. Humans would fight. And humans would continue to prove that no enemy, no matter how powerful, could ever fully anticipate the strength of one determined human crew. In the darkness of space, the human battleship waited, quiet but unstoppable. The first decisive strike had been made, and the galaxy would never forget it. The stars were calm, but space was not peaceful. The Draxonian fleet, once proud and confident, was in chaos. Hundreds of ships floated helplessly, engines damaged, weapons misfiring. One human battleship had changed everything. Lieutenant Mara stood on the bridge, calm, eyes scanning the devastation. The human ship moved silently, precise and careful. Mara studied the Draxonian flagship, the largest ship in the fleet, bristling with weapons and power. This ship had been the heart of the alien force, and destroying it would break the fleet's spirit. Mara nodded to her crew. "We end this now," she said quietly. The crew worked quickly, activating the energy cannon and preparing a stealth approach. They had fought long and carefully to reach this moment. One wrong move could destroy them, but the humans thrived under pressure. They were clever, patient, and brave. The Draxonian flagship sensors detected the human ship at the last moment. "Prepare for attack," Commander Zorath shouted, but panic had already spread through his officers. They had lost coordination, and the humans had learned to exploit every weakness. Mara's ship struck silently. The energy cannon fired, and a pulse of blue light ripped through the flagship's shields. Explosions rocked the massive vessel, and systems began to fail. Alarms screamed as fire spread through corridors and weapon systems failed. The once mighty flagship was helpless. Other alien ships tried to intervene, but the human crew moved swiftly, avoiding attacks and striking weak points. One by one, the supporting cruisers were disabled or confused. The humans did not need to destroy all the ships, they only needed to break the fleet's control. Chaos was enough. On the Draxonian flagship, Commander Zorath roared in disbelief. How can one human ship do this? His pride, once absolute, was gone. Fear replaced it. Humans were clever, unpredictable, and fearless. And now they had proven that one ship could shatter the heart of an empire. Mara's voice over the comms was calm, steady, and full of quiet power. "We do not wish to destroy your people unnecessarily. But if you threaten life, you will face intelligence, courage, and determination you cannot defeat." Her words echoed across space, shaking the Draxonians' confidence. The flagship's core erupted in a massive explosion. Debris floated through the void, scattering smaller ships in all directions. The remaining Draxonians fled, terrified, and their fleet dissolved into chaos. What had once been an unstoppable force was now a fractured and disoriented group. The human crew remained vigilant, not celebrating too loudly. They knew the galaxy held more dangers, and victory was only temporary. But today, humans had shown the Draxonians, and the universe, what courage, strategy, and willpower could achieve. One small ship, one clever crew, had beaten a vast empire. Mara looked at her crew with pride. They had survived impossible odds, outsmarted a mighty enemy, and proved that humans were not to be underestimated. They had turned weakness into strength, fear into victory. This was what humans did best. The Draxonian fleet retreated into the distance, shattered in spirit and organization. They would remember this day forever. The day a single human battleship had destroyed their flagship and broken their pride. The human ship floated silently through space, small but unstoppable. Lieutenant Mara knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and humans would face more challenges. But one truth was certain: humans were clever, brave, and resilient. And any enemy that underestimated them would soon regret it. The stars were still, holding the memory of what had just happened. Humans had won, not because they were the strongest, but because they were the smartest, the bravest, and the most determined. And in the quiet darkness, the human battleship prepared for the next challenge. The human battleship floated silently through the dark stars. Lieutenant Mara and her crew had survived the impossible. The Draxonian fleet had been shattered, their flagship destroyed, and their arrogance broken. But Mara knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of dangers humans had yet to face. The human crew communicated with nearby planets, sending warnings about the Draxonian threat. "They will return," Mara said quietly. "Other civilizations must be ready. Humans will help them, but they must learn to survive too." Her words were calm, full of wisdom. Humans not only fought, they prepared, protected, and inspired. Every crew member worked quietly, checking systems, repairing minor damages, and planning their next move. They had proven courage, cleverness, and resilience. They had shown that a small ship, with a brave crew, could change the fate of a fleet and even an empire. The universe had taken notice. From the wreckage of the Draxonian fleet, survivors fled, frightened and humbled. Stories would spread of the humans who had faced impossible odds and won. The legends of human ingenuity, bravery, and determination would travel across galaxies. Humans were small, yes, but their spirit was unstoppable. Mara looked out into space. The stars shone brightly, endless and mysterious. She knew more battles awaited, more challenges, more enemies. But humans were ready. They did not rely only on weapons or strength. They relied on intelligence, courage, and willpower. And those were forces no alien could match. The human ship prepared to move again, leaving behind the remnants of the Draxonian fleet. The galaxy was changing, and humans were at the heart of it. Allies would be inspired, enemies would fear, and hope would grow. Humanity had shown that even a single ship, with determination and cleverness, could make a difference. Mara's voice spoke over the comms, calm and strong. "We fight not for conquest, but for survival. We fight to protect, to inspire, and to show that no challenge is too great if you are clever and brave. Remember this: humans may be small, but we will never give up." As the human battleship vanished into the depths of space, the Draxonians and other species alike understood a truth they could not ignore. Humans were not just survivors, they were pioneers, strategists, and heroes. The galaxy had underestimated them once, but never again. The stars were quiet, but the story of humanity had just begun. Lieutenant Mara and her crew sailed on, ready for the next adventure, ready to face the next impossible challenge. They were humans, clever, brave, and unstoppable. And the universe would remember that always. In the endless dark of space, one small ship became a symbol of hope, courage, and the enduring strength of humanity. And for the first time, the galaxy understood that humans could rise, adapt, and triumph where others failed.